Alright guys, now we're going to start working on some submissions. Getting a submission is always the final goal of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Everything that we do in grappling, we do in order to get a submission. Why do we sweep our opponent? To get the top position so we can get a submission. Why do we take them down? Because we want to get him in a position where we can submit him. Everything that we do, we are always looking for the submission. It doesn't matter if I'm winning a fight 20-0. If my opponent finds an opening and gets a submission, the fight is over. He wins the match. Therefore, the most important thing is always the submission. We must always be actively looking for a submission opportunity, while at the same time never forgetting to protect ourselves. If I get careless, remember, my opponent might always stab me before I can get a submission on him. So now we're going to start covering some submissions, starting from the turtle guard position. Okay? When fighting from the turtle position, we should never forget to protect ourselves. We should always use the turtle's shell, so to speak, in order to protect our neck. This is how things will work. Just try to picture your gi top as the turtle's shell. I will never expose myself too much, and I'm always curled up using my shoulders and elbows to close any gaps. And I gotta be paying attention so I don't get tapped in this position. After I learn to protect myself in the turtle, I can start learning how to effectively use submissions from that position. Alright guys, now we're going to start working on our submissions from the turtle guard. So I'm going to start on my knees, the turtle guard, and my opponent will try to come with his hand on my collar like that. Why? Because he's always looking for the clock choke. That's a good attack for him. It's a common attack. So once he does that, I need to have a reaction here, and I'm going to get a submission from the same position. First thing I do is control his sleeve, and I pull his elbow down so I can duck under with my head. Now at the same time, as I'm ducking under, I'm going to get the submission here. Now I'm going to get something that I call the inverted wrist lock. So I'm going to bend his wrist like this here, instead of the normal like that. So like this. Now this is a technique that a lot of people use, especially from the stand-up position like that. Now a lot of black belts have been using this technique, and they have success with the technique, because if you do it right, if you do it in the right timing, it's extremely effective, and sometimes you may even hurt your opponent because he's not able to tap in time. So control the wrist, control the elbows now with both hands like this, and lean forward, bringing your head down. Okay, so let's watch that now on the ground. So he controls my collar, I open his elbow like this, and right now I'm going to bring my head down and move my body to the right side. So pull the elbow, duck with the head, and now watch my body moving here. So you're right here, you're going to pull that elbow down, duck under with the head, and start moving sideways and lock his elbow with both hands. Getting the tap in the wrist lock. So right here, as soon as he gets that grip, I'm going to pull the elbow, duck with the head, now move. Get in the wrist lock. Alright guys, once again, I'm going to start from the turtle position. My opponent finds himself on top of me, and now he's going to start trying to go and attack the collar. So he's always looking for that collar. I always need to block that attack. I don't want him to get to the collar. So I bring both hands at the inside, and now I'm going to move my right arm behind his arm. So watch my right hand, it comes on the outside like this, and now I control his elbow and I pull that elbow towards my hips here, just like this. Now I control my own wrist, and I get a figure 4 arm lock here, almost like an Americana lock. So once again, he tries to get my collar. I protect myself. I bring his elbow in, and I move his wrist out. I get my grips and finish. In an Americana lock. Once again, I'm in my turtle trying to protect myself. He tries to grab the collar. Now, sometimes he may even get the collar. That's not a problem. All I gotta do is to make sure that I come in the outside with my right arm, bring in his elbow, and I break his grip by using my left hand close to his wrist. So I want to bring that left hand always close to the wrist. Move the elbow towards the inside and move your hand towards the outside so you can finish and get the submission there. Get in the Americana lock by bringing his elbow towards the inside and hand down. Now let's look at a different submission here. Once again, I find myself in a turtle guard, and my opponent tries to reach for the collar choke. Now, the first thing I need to do is to pull the elbow just like before and duck my head underneath. Now, I'm going to attack the opposite hand, so his left hand right here. I control his arm by pinching my elbow against my ribs. And now I have his arm trapped in that same position. So I trap the arm that's controlling the far collar. Just like this. And now I'm going to move my head and my body will move the opposite way. I move towards him. I control his wrist or my collar. And I bring pressure with my head backwards against his back like this, forcing the omoplata lock. Now I can also use a wrist lock just like this. So I find myself in the turtle position here, and Elan tries to get the clock choke. Make sure you pull the elbow down and escape with the head at the same time, trapping that arm there. Control the wrist. And at the same time, pop the head out, controlling his wrist. Bring your head towards his back. That prevents him from rolling and escaping. And get the tap here. It's very important to keep pressure with your head. If his head is not there, my opponent will roll. He will escape and expose my back. Let's see that again. My opponent controls the collar. I escape with my head. And I fall for the lock. Now, always keep in mind that you must put weight on top of your opponent to prevent him from escaping. Get the tap or use the wrist lock like this. Let's take a look at a different arm attack here. Once again, I'm in the turtle and Elan tries to attack my collar just like before here, trying to get the clock choke. I'm going to defend that grip here by shooting my arm through. So I open and I bring my right hand on the inside and I shoot my arm through like this, wrapping his arm all the way around. Now, I try to control his grip, so I need to break his grip by using my thumb on the inside, and I control my own wrist and his wrist just like this, getting ready for the shoulder lock. I fall back, so I lean back, moving my back towards the ground just like this, and as I do that, I need to get my half guard, so I use my left leg to lock the half guard so he won't be able to roll and escape. And now I get the finish here. Once again. Now, I can also get the lock before he controls my collar. I don't have to wait for him to get the collar. So control his wrist, control your own wrist. Now, move your back towards the ground, close the half guard to prevent him from escaping, and finish getting the submission. Now we're going to look at a different technique that's extremely similar to the last one. This time we're going to attack the shoulder lock like before, but Elan is going to protect himself. He's going to try to stop me from getting the finish. The shoulder lock is a position that everybody's familiar with. However, people are not used to being on the receiving end of that technique when I'm fighting from the turtle guard. They think they're in control. They think they have the upper hand here. So I'm going to control his sleeve here, so I can shoot my right arm through, and I wrap my arm around his arm. Now I need to come and break his grip here, so I can control his wrist, and now I'm going to control my own wrist. As I'm trying to go for the previous technique, the shoulder lock, my opponent leans forward. Now it's impossible for me to go backwards. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to move forward, so I roll. Once I land in this position here, now I have enough power in order to break his grip. So I'm going to break his grip like this, and I'm going to roll sideways towards the mount like that. Once I get to this mounted position, I shoot my leg over his head, and I get the tap like this. So I'm in the turtle position. Sometimes I don't even let him get the collar. I attack right away. So he's trying to come for the collar. I control his wrist. I shoot my arm over, control my own wrist. And now he knows that the technique is coming and he blocks. So he really stays heavy here. Once I get to this position, I'm going to roll forward. I'm going to move my head sideways like this, rolling on top of the shoulder. Once I land in this position here, I'm going to plant my left foot on the ground. I'm going to start moving towards the mount as I break his grip here. So break the grip and mount. Rolling this way. Now it's important to keep his hand away from my leg so that he doesn't grab my gi like this. Because now it's going to turn into a war. So keep it away. Shoot your leg on top of his head, and now you're in a good position to get the tap. Alright guys, let's work on another technique here from the turtle guard. Now my opponent positions himself a little bit towards my back like this. He gets to a stalling position. He doesn't want to attack me anymore. He just wants to stall. Maybe he's winning the fight by 1 or 2 advantages, and he just wants to stay here stalling. He doesn't want anything else. He moves towards my back and just controls my leg like this. Here's what I'm going to do in this situation. Without him notice, so I try to call his attention elsewhere, maybe towards the front here. I'm going to start setting up my shoulder roll. So I come and I control his wrist here. I control the sleeve near the wrist. And as soon as I get control of that sleeve, I'm going to roll over my shoulder towards the omoplata, like this. Once I get this position here, I'm going to control his belt with one hand, so he won't be able to roll forward. I stay heavy with my legs on top of his shoulder, bring my other hand on the ground, control his waist, and now I'm going to bend my legs, like this here, moving forward to get the tap. Once again. Now the hand that was controlling the belt, as I'm starting to sit up, it's going to control around his waist. And it's very important to stay heavy with the legs on top of his shoulders so he won't be able to stand up. If I don't bring that pressure, he's going to be able to stand up like this. So stay heavy with the legs, and now you can open the triangle, get in the tap. Again. I'm doing my turtle guard. He tries to control my leg. As soon as he gets that grip, I move my head sideways and I start to shoulder roll here. Sometimes I may start the roll before I get control of the sleeve, and I get the sleeve halfway through the roll. Just like this here. Control the belt, place the opposite hand. One hand on the belt, opposite hand on the ground. Now always heavy with the legs. Start sitting up. And get the tap. Now we're going to work on a variation of the omoplata lock. This technique is really interesting. It's going to start from the turtle guard, and this omoplata lock was developed by my partner, Tererê. And it's something that really worked for me. It fit my game pretty well, and I'm pretty sure it's going to work for you guys as well. It's a great technique here. So once again, I start from the turtle guard. Elan gets a hold of my leg here. As soon as he controls my leg here, I'm going to start the shoulder roll. So move your head sideways and reach for his wrist there. Always trying to control the sleeve. I roll and I find myself in this position here. As soon as I finish the roll here, my opponent gets my belt here or my pants, and he starts lifting my hips off the ground like this in order to defend. Now, without him expecting, I'm going to bring my weight with my legs on top of his shoulder by stretching my legs like this here. Just like this. And now you can see that my hips are off the ground. The only thing that's touching the ground is my shoulders. And I'm going to shoot my left leg here underneath his leg. So you can see that I'm going to try to use my left hook there under his leg, just like this. And this is going to bring a lot of pressure, and at the same time it prevents him from rolling forward. As soon as I get the hooks, I can let go of his hand here, and now I place both hands on the mat. I'm going to try to sit up, and now I stretch my legs like this to get the tap here with the omoplata lock. I can also move my hips backwards like this because it even brings more pressure. There's a lot of people that are flexible here, and they can't stand the omoplata. So if I do it like this, I guarantee the tap even against the flexible opponents. Once again, as soon as he gets a hold of my leg, I'm going to start the shoulder roll, and I'm going to reach for his sleeve here. So shoot your arm through as you roll, and you land in the omoplata position. My opponent tries to stand up. I bring my weight down, and I get the hooks. Once I get the hook on the inside, everything is pretty much done. I can let go of his wrist. All I got to do now is stretch my leg. Place both hands on the ground and move your hips away like this. Always keep in mind that you can also use the wrist lock here in order to get the tap. Alright guys, let's work on yet another variation of the omoplata lock that happens a lot. There are some people that defend the omoplata like that, pulling my hips up, and there is another group of people that like to jump over the top in order to defend the lock. So let's see what happens in that situation here. I start from my turtle, my opponent controls my leg. Now I'm going to move my head sideways and execute the roll. Once I find myself in this position, right now, as soon as I get control of that arm, my opponent tries to jump to the side, like this. So as soon as I notice that he's going to try to execute that jump, I need to block him. So I just control the foot and I slide my hand towards his toes like this. I bring his knee close to my hips so that his leg is bent. So like this. And now use your left hand to go around his ankle, controlling your own wrist, and get in the tap. Let's see that once more. I'm in the turtle, he controls the leg. I roll. Before he jumps, I control any way I can. Move that knee towards your hips and control his foot near the toes. Whenever you're looking for a foot lock, you don't want to get close to the heels, but close to the toes like this. Just like this. Move your elbow downward so his leg is bent and he can no longer stretch his leg. And get the submission. Alright guys, since we just demonstrated a toe hold in the previous technique, we're gonna stay on the same topic. I started by attacking an omoplata lock and took advantage of the position to attack his foot in a foot lock. Now we're going to discuss two topics that are interlinked, the foot lock and the leg lock. Those two techniques pretty much complete each other. Whenever my opponent attempts to escape from a leg lock, he usually offers me a foot lock and vice versa. You escape from the foot lock, you offer the leg lock. You escape from the leg lock, you offer the foot lock. This is going to happen all the time, and it's important for us to understand this concept and take advantage of this fact. When my opponent has his leg flexed, we're going to attack his foot. Once I do that, my opponent may stretch his leg out in order to defend the position. However, he's now offering me a leg lock. Now, in order to block that leg lock, he bends his leg again. Once again, the foot lock is there for you. This is a back and forth battle. Foot, leg, leg, foot. We will now start to work on many foot locks and leg locks, and I'm going to transition between them according to my opponent's reaction. So we're going to start with a variation of the previous technique to demonstrate to you how this principle works. So Elan gets a hold of my leg. I'm going to shoot through and roll over like this to the omoplata. And now he tries to jump over the top. I control his leg, I control his ankle, and I start to go for my toe hold here. Once I start going for that foot lock, Elan starts stretching his leg like this in order to escape. I'm going to let go of my omoplata. I plant my leg on the ground so I can scoot my hips, get into this position here, finishing the leg lock. So I was trying to go for the foot lock once his leg was bent. He tried to stretch it. And then once he stretches, I make the transition to the leg lock. He's offering me that lock. Let's see it again. I roll over. I get the omoplata. He tries to jump over. I stop the jump and I start working towards the foot lock. Now my opponent starts stretching his leg out. I plant my left foot. I scoot my hips so I can move my knee in. And now I chop. Now notice how I do this here. Once I get the knee in, I can throw the left leg over. And my right leg will now come on top of the left one, closing a triangle. Once I lock the triangle, all I got to do is control my own collar and thrust my hips upward in order to get the tap. Okay, now we're going to work on a leg lock that is pretty similar to the omoplata that we did before. How are they similar? We use shoulder rolls in both techniques. I'm going to start the technique in the sitting up guard, as I always do before I make the transition to the turtle guard. I start finding Elan for my open guard, and now as I move to transition to the turtle, I'm going to shoot my right leg on the inside of his legs, stretching it out like this. My goal is to get this type of hook here, just like so. So, always get this type of hook. Just like this here. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw towards the shoulder here, so forward. I need to look towards the outside because I'm going to bring my weight towards elan here. So I look to the opposite way. So once I look, always keep in mind that you need to protect your neck first. So duck underneath that hand there. And now you can roll. And you can see that his leg is already trapped. I control it and I submit him here. Once again, I start fighting elan from the open guard. And as I come to my knees, I'm going to shoot my right leg towards the inside of his legs. So like this, and now I try to hook his left leg here. Now, open the position here so you can get to your turtle. All I gotta do is execute my roll. I look sideways and I roll on top of the opposite shoulder. And his leg is already trapped and I control it on a leg lock. Get into submission. We will now demonstrate a technique that illustrates that principle. If his leg is stretched, I'm going to get the leg lock. If his leg is bent, I'm going to get the foot lock here. So we're fighting from the same position, the sitting up guard. I stretch my right leg between his legs and I try to get that hook there. Once I get to this position, I execute my roll, and as I roll, elan knows that I'm going to attack the leg lock, and he protects like this. He locks his legs here, and his leg is now bent. Here's what I'm going to do in this situation here. I'm going to go and I'm going to attack the opposite foot. So I bring that foot to the center, getting the foot like this. Okay? Let's see it again. We start from the sitting up guard. I'm going to use my hook on the inside over his left leg like this. Get to the turtle, protecting your neck. You don't want him to grab the collar like this, so make sure your head is underneath and roll. As I roll, he already protects. Sometimes I may end up sitting up like this, but usually what happens is for me to be flat on my back. Now, once he protects the leg lock, that means he's offering me the foot lock. So use your right arm here to go around his ankle, bring his foot towards me. And my left hand comes on top of his toes like this. I control my own wrist. And then let's watch the details here. So once he locks here, we're going to notice the details. I'm going to use a monkey grip here. So thumb and fingers on the same side, just like this here, not like the opposite way. And I apply the pressure. Where should I apply the pressure? Not straight forward like this, but to the side, towards the inside. I'm going to use my right arm to lift my elbow here. Always using a twisting motion like that in order to get the tap. Alright guys, let's see another technique here, and this time we're going to start from the turtle guard. So I'm fighting from my knees right here, and elan is trying to control me from behind. I'm going to pull my leg is right now on the outside, I'm going to pull it in so I can hook his leg like this here. Once I get that hook on the inside of his legs, I'm going to roll. And now as I roll, he's going to protect himself from the knee bar by crossing those legs. I control his foot and I'm going to pull just like a foot lock. Now once he noticed the foot lock coming, he stretches his leg. I control behind his heel here with my right hand, so right now he cannot come back there. And this lets me free to attack his opposite leg here, finishing with a leg lock submission. So I'm fighting for my knees here, And right now, Elan is attacking behind me. Now, since he's right behind me this time, I'm going to use my hips to move him forward like this here. And then I hook his leg. Once I hook the leg, I roll. Once I roll, he defends the leg lock. As he defends, I try to go for the foot lock. And now he defends the foot lock by stretching that leg. I come with my right hand against his heel, and I keep that leg away from me. And right now, there's no more defense against the leg lock. Even if he tries to return, he can't. And now, I control the opposite leg, controlling my collar, thrusting the hips forward. Now, what I can do here is, once I close this triangle here, I can plant my left foot on the ground like this. And now, I can bring my hips up like that. Now we're going to work in yet another variation to that combination series between the foot lock and leg lock. So I'm going to start fighting from the turtle position with Elan. And notice the detail here. I'm going to use that inside hook with my leg. Once I get the hook, I'm going to move my hips back. I don't want to roll like this here with my hips far away from him. I return with my hips backwards, and now I execute the roll. And now he's going to roll with me this time, falling with his back on the mat. Now it's very important, as soon as he rolls, I need to come up with my right arm like this so I can sit up. I do not want to stay here flat on my back. So always try to sit up with your opponent here. Now you can notice that I'm really trying to hide everything from him, and his leg is trapped there. And I sink my right leg deeper into the position like this so I can close a triangle with my legs. Right now there's no way he's going to escape from this position. You can notice that his leg is locked in there, and he's already protecting himself from the leg lock. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to control the foot, and I'm going to start diving towards the foot lock here. So I'm going to dive with my right arm. Once I get my grip there, I'm going to roll to the side. Always remember that you're going to use a twisting motion to get the foot lock. Never straight forward like this, but always twisting your body here. So the tip of his foot moves towards the inside. Let's see that again. I'm fighting from my knees, and I use the hook on the inside, and I roll. Once I roll, I gotta sit up. I'm not gonna stay flat on my back like that. Now I'm gonna control his pants here so I can sink my right leg deeper into the position. And now I lock everything together. Once I lock, I'm gonna dive between his knees here. So I'm not going to bring my body to the outside, but between his knees like this. Control his toes, circle around the ankle, and control your own wrist. After everything is locked right here, I can even tap him here, but I prefer to roll to the side here. Now, another important detail here is that there's no way for Elan to escape. Why? Because I'm locking his other leg like that. What would be his defense here against the footlock? For him to twist out of the position. So if I open here, Elan is going to twist, not to that side, but to the opposite side, and he will escape. Now, since his leg is locked, there's no escape at all. Okay guys, yet another variation here. So I'm fighting Elan here in the turtle guard. I shoot that hook in with my leg. Now, once I get the hook, remember, you must bring your weight backwards like this here. Why? Because once I come back, my opponent tries to throw his weight forward, and that's exactly the reaction that I need in order to make my roll easier. Once I roll, I always try to sit up. I don't lay flat on the ground. Now I'm going to start sinking my right leg in, and at the same time I'm going to shift my hips on top of my opponent here. I'm not going to stay with my hips on the ground like this. Bring your hips on top of your opponent and start sliding that right leg in at the same time so you can close your triangle here. Now once I close the triangle, I'm going to control his foot. And now I'm going to pull his foot towards a straight ankle lock. Just like this here. Now once I start applying pressure, some people will tap, but others are going to try to use the opposite leg, stretching it like this in order to escape here. If he does that, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go underneath that opposite leg, and I'm going to lock his legs like this. Now, it's pretty much an ankle lock here. I'm going to hurt him behind the ankle and shin because his opposite shin is coming up. So it's forcing his own leg like that. So I can get the tap. I can also add pressure by stretching my legs here at the same time. So once I get that hook in, I'm going to roll forward. And now I stay close to my opponent here. Don't give him any space. Shoot your right leg in as your hips come up and lock the triangle. Now start attacking the opposite ankle in a straight ankle lock. Just like this. Now some people may tap there, or if he stretches his leg in order to block, I'm going to go around, crossing his legs like an X here, and then I twist. So get the submission here, or fall and stretch your legs. Alright guys, now we're going to work on a different technique here, another ankle lock. And notice that every single time I'm using that hook on the inside in order to set up my techniques. So let's do it again. I start finding up from the open guard, the sitting up guard. I'm going to use my right leg to go between his legs as I turn to my knees here. As soon as I get my hook in, I need to bring my hips back like that. Once I get to this position, I'm going to control his foot with my right hand. Now I'm going to pull that foot towards me, and I'm going to sit back at the same time. Once my opponent falls, I'm going to move my knee here to the outside, and I pull on his ankle, get into submission. I start from the open guard. And my right leg will now come on the inside here. Get in that hook. Get to your knees, move your hips back. Now, reach for his foot with your right hand and pull the foot towards you as you sit back here. Now, if I just start pulling right here with my knee in this position, this is illegal. It's going to twist his knee. Instead, I need to move my knee to the outside. And now, I control the ankle and pull the foot. Guys, let's pay close attention to this detail here. Once again, I find myself in the same position with Elan. So we start fighting from the guard. I slide my leg there so I can get my hook. And I come to the turtle position and I start fighting from the turtle position. It is very, very important to always be careful with your neck here. He's always looking for the choke. During this video here, I'm relaxed. I'm not worrying about the choke because I'm demonstrating techniques. But during a fight, I'm going to be just like a turtle, hiding in my shell here. So I cannot not allow him to grab the collar like that, because once I roll, I'm going to choke myself out. If he does get the collar, I need to defend that grip before I go for my roll. Or, even better, before he managed to get control of that collar, I control his sleeve like this, or maybe even like that. And then I can go for a roll. I cannot allow him to get control of the collar. The good thing about this is that if he's paying attention to the collar, he's not paying attention to anything else. He will not notice that I already have a hook in and I'm setting him up for submission. He's going to be worried about attacking me here instead. So the guy on top remembers he's always thinking that he's the one attacking. He thinks he has the dominance here. He does not notice that I'm already setting him up for submission. So once you get to this position, do not let him get the collar. Now, I already have my hook in here, so I'm ready to go. I could roll, but in this position here, we're not going to execute the roll. We're going backwards here. So make sure that you stay with your hook on the inside. And now, instead of controlling the hand like we did before, we're going to make sure that we hide the ankle lock here. So right here, I'm going to shift my weight, keeping live toes so my toes are on the ground. I'm going to shift my weight backwards without controlling the ankle. As I sit, you can see that I'm already bringing my knee to the outside. Once I find myself in this position, that's when I'm going to control the foot. Okay, and then I get the submission. Now, pay attention to this detail. I'm not reaching for the foot right away. I sweep, and then after I get that control, I go for the foot. So get the hook on the inside. Instead of going for the foot right away, just place your toes on the ground and start sitting back, landing in this position. Now, as I land, I'm going to bring my knee right away to the outside. Then and only then I control the foot and get the submission here. Okay, now we're going to work on a different position here, something a little bit different from what we were doing before. This time, instead of using an inside hook here between his legs, I'm going to shoot my right leg towards the outside. So the left is going to stay on the inside and the right leg is going to be on the outside, like this here. So you shoot your leg all the way through and you hook his ankle. So just like this here. So start turning towards your knees and hook his ankle like that. So now his leg is going to be trapped from the outside, no longer on the inside, but on the outside like this. Once I get to this position here, I'm going to go and I'm going to reach for his heel here with my right hand. And now I start shooting my left leg through and I pull his foot towards me. Get in the leg lock. So I'm fighting from the guard. Now I'm going to use my right leg on the outside, the left leg on the inside, and reach for the heel. Now I'm going to shoot here my left leg in between his legs. So as I go, I start shooting my left leg deeper and I pull the foot towards myself here. Now I'm going to chop with the left leg so I can close the triangle. Control your own collar, and now thrust your hips upward, basing out with your right foot on the ground. So thrust the hips. Now always use the hips. I'm letting go of the ankle here just to demonstrate. Alright, now let's work on a technique that is based on the same principle as the one that we just did. But this time, Elan is standing up in my guard. So we're fighting from the guard, Elan is standing up, and he plants his right foot right here. So he's trying to pass towards the right side. Now, once I get him in this position here, the first thing that I need to do is go on the inside of his leg with my arm, just like so. And now, I'm going to bring my hips up. So my hips need to be glued to my opponent's body high. So if I have my hand on the collar, I can even help myself up. So raise your hips so you can lock your legs around your opponent's leg. Now I start bringing pressure. My opponent may tap right here, or he may choose to sit down like this. If he does, I roll and I finish the submission. It's always a good idea to maintain a hold of your opponent's upper body here so he won't be able to turn. If I let go here, he may move not only towards me, but towards the opposite side, ruining the submission. So we're fighting from the guard. He leads with his right leg. I control the leg. And now I'm going to bring my hips high. Just like this here. I start applying pressure right away towards his knee. He may tap right here or he may fall back. If he falls back, I'm going to control with the other hand. So I shift grips here so I can control his upper body. And I tap just like this. Alright guys, now we're going to work on a different situation here where I'm fighting Elan from my open guard. I'm going to try to do the same thing as we've been doing before, trying to use that inside hook here. But right now, I have been using that hook in sparring, and my opponent gets smart about it. He knows how to block it. So as soon as I come with that hook on the inside, he's going to try to move that leg back. Not his right leg like this, but the left one. And right now, I no longer have the hook. So I find myself in a position where I lost the hook. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to control his right knee. And I pull his knee towards me. Now I'm going to roll. Now before I roll, I'm going to get a hold of his left knee as well. Just like this. Now, I'm going to start my shoulder roll, pulling his knees towards me because I do not have the hook. But at the same time, now I have two knees here. So roll, and you get to this position. Now, he's well balanced, so I need to use my leg here to help me out. So I'm going to use a pendulum motion with my leg. Pull his knees towards you right here. Now, if he locks his legs together, I'm going to close and go for the foot lock. If he doesn't protect, I go for the leg lock. Pay attention to the pendulum motion. It's essential that you use the pendulum. Why? Because his base is good. His leg is stretched, so his weight is really well balanced. It's extremely heavy for me to move him. So I gotta use the pendulum with one leg and elevate with the other. So let's do it sideways so you guys can observe better. I get the inside hook, I come to my knees, and he stretches his left leg here. Now I'm gonna control the left knee here and the right knee. So the right knee and the left knee, both knees at the same time, and I start my roll here. Now that's where the pendulum comes into play. I use the pendulum to roll him, and I pull my knees here. Close the triangle and get the leg lock, or if he defends, I can attack with a foot lock here, just like this. We have covered so far the foot lock and the leg lock. We also came to understand that one technique always works hand in hand with the other, and I can combine them together and switch from one to the other with ease. These two techniques really go well together. Now, we're going to cover another technique, another submission called the calf crunch. The calf crunch really matches well with the foot and the leg lock. If one technique is good, two are better, and three, well, That's a dream come true. It's like a love triangle. We need to work on these three techniques close together. So let's start learning the calf crunch. The calf crunch is an advanced technique, one that you don't really see quite often. Very few grapplers execute the calf crunch, which makes it even better. You're going to be able to catch your opponent by surprise. He's never going to imagine that you're going to go for such a lock. Our first calf crunch will be done from the similar position as before. Just so you guys can understand what the calf crunch really is, we can compare it to the biceps crunch, a technique that has been banned from jiu-jitsu competition. The difference is that we're going to attack the leg instead of the arm. Ilan is going to lay on the mat belly down so I can demonstrate the basics of this technique. The calf crunch is based on the idea of forcing his leg to bend, bringing his heel towards his butt, while at the same time having some object, be it my arm or my leg, behind his knee, like so. The submission was made popular by pro wrestling, where wrestlers would use a lock where they would capture both legs and cross them, just like this, forcing the guy's ankle down. I'm pretty sure that every one of you has seen this lock before. So the key to the technique is to bring something, be it his leg, my arm, my leg, behind his knee, and at the same time force him to flex his leg in this position. This causes extreme pain in his calf or even in the lower part of his thigh, stretching his knee joint out. The lock pretty much forces his calf away from his thigh, and it's quite dangerous. It may even cause some serious damage to the knee joint. Let's work on the technique itself now. We're going to start from the same position as before, fighting for that inside hook. So I shoot my right leg in, and I come to my knees. And right now, Ilan already knows what I'm going for, so he blocks that by bringing his shin on top of my calf, just like so. So he's trying to block me. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use my right hand. I'm going to shoot it underneath, and it goes under his thigh and on top of his calf. Once I get to this position, I'm going to start to roll. And I'm going to lock my legs in a triangle. I bring pressure with my legs down, and I get the tap. So notice the details of the technique. My hand is behind his calf, my right leg is on top of his ankle, and now I use my left leg on top of everything. I can bring my hand on his thigh, and I apply pressure downward with my leg. Let's try that again. I fight for that inside hook, and I come to my knees. Now my opponent blocks, and he places his shin on top of my calf. Now I'm going to use my right hand. I'm going to shoot it through behind his thigh, on top of his calf. And now I'm not going to move my right leg a whole lot. I'm just trying to lock everything together as I roll. So now, once I get to this position, I may control my collar or place my hand on my thigh, getting the tap here. Alright guys, now we're going to look at another calf crunch here. Now in this situation, my opponent is standing in my guard, and I'm going to try to get a knee bar just like we did before. Right now he's going to try to defend this. So I'm fighting from my guard here. He plants that foot, I control the leg, and as I'm trying to go for the knee bar, he's going to defend. So I wrap the leg, and as I'm trying to bring my hips close to him, he brings that knee to the ground in order to block my knee bar. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring my left calf behind his thigh, just like this. So my leg comes in between, and now I'm already in the position for the calf crunch. As soon as I get this, I need to control the belt. Once I control the belt, I'm not going to triangle my legs like this. Why? Because if I close a triangle here, Elan will attack the toe hold. Instead, I'm going to bring my right foot on top of my left ankle. And now all I got to do to get the tap is to pull the belt backwards so I can wrap my arms around my opponent's waist. Now I'm going to bring pressure with my right foot on top of my left foot, and I get the tap like this. Do it slowly because you may hurt your opponent. Once again, I'm fighting in love for my guard. I try to go for the knee bar. He bends the knee. I bring my foot on top of my foot, and now sometimes I don't even have to wrap my arms around him. Just control the belt, pull him back as I stretch my right leg. Like we discussed before, it's very important to combine the calf crunch technique with the knee bar, the leg lock, and with the foot lock. So here's how we're going to go about that. Once again, I start fighting from my guard, and I'm going to use that special hook with the right leg here. Once I get my hook, I come to my knees, and I'm going to roll. And I find myself in that position. Always close to my opponent. And right now, notice what's going to happen. I'm going to use my left hand. I'm going to shoot it through here. So, between his thigh and his calf. And now I'm going to control my own wrist. Just like this. Now, with the other hand, I'm going to push his knee away to open that triangle position. Now, notice that he's not going to stretch that leg. He's going to keep it bent because he's afraid of the leg lock. If he stretches out, he knows that I'm going to fall towards the leg lock. So he keeps it bent. I'm going to use that to my advantage. I'm going to throw my leg on top of his ankle. And I keep that control and I close a triangle of my own. Get in the calf crunch. Now, I don't really have to squeeze hard here. All I got to do is pull back and I'm going to get the tap. Pull and stretch. Let's see that again. I start from the guard. I use my hook on the inside. Just like this. So always get the hook before you get to your knees. Always be careful with his grip. Don't let him control your neck. Roll. And now, once you finish the roll, you can start working on the calf crunch. Shoot your left hand through. Control your own wrist. Make sure you use your right hand against the knee so you can open that triangle. And now, he stays with his leg bent, so I'm going to shoot my right leg on top of that ankle. And I'm going to close a triangle of my own here, like this. Get in the tap by pulling my hands. Now, notice that my groin is on the outside of that position. I'm not really too close to him. I don't try to stay on top just like this, because now it's difficult for me. So I want to scoot my hips away and squeeze. Now, always with the groin on the outside. Alright guys, now we're going to wrap up the submission series with a very interesting and effective technique. This is a position that Elan taught me, and he helped me incorporate this choke into my arsenal, and it really fits my game pretty well. It's an unorthodox technique that works great with the turtle guard position, and it's called the suicidal choke. Let's pay attention to the details in this technique here. We start just like before, fighting from the open guard, but ready to make the transition to the turtle. I grab his collar with my right hand, get in a strong, deep grip, just as if I was looking for a regular choke here. Whenever I get a strong grip in his collar, Elan starts worrying about the choke and he defends the grip. Okay? So once I get that grip, my opponent thinks that I'm looking for a choke and he defends right away. As he ducks under my forearm, forcing my grip to the opposite side, I'm not going to let go. I maintain control of the collar. Now here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come with the second hand, thumb inside the opposite collar, just like this, in a non-threatening position. I start to turn towards my opponent, bringing my right knee down on the ground and moving my elbow towards the center, like so. It's important that my elbow moves towards the center. I turn to the turtle position like this. He moves towards my back and I get the tap. All I have to do is a minor adjustment of my grip, twisting my wrist to the inside, and I get the submission. The key to this position is for you guys to offer your back to your opponent. So we want our opponent to get extremely greedy, to try to get to our back and end up choking himself out. So once more, I control the collar grip and my opponent starts worrying about the choke. He defends and frees the head. Once he frees his head, my second grip comes into play, grabbing the opposite collar. Notice the detail of my grips. The closer my hands are to each other, the better the choke will be. So I'm using 4 fingers in the first grip, and once he defends, I just maintain the grip without even moving it. Now the second grip will come, and I'm going to use my hands with the thumb on the inside of his collar like this. Since I'm demonstrating technique, I'm going to give a bigger gap than usual, because otherwise I'm going to rip Elan's neck out. My elbow will now move towards the center, and he starts moving towards my back. Even if I let him have the hooks, I will still tap him out. However, I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to move towards the turtle position instead, where I can protect myself and prevent the hooks from coming in. So once again, I get control of the collar, I bring my second grip, and now I start turning towards the turtle, getting the tap. Let's see how it works. As I'm facing him, you can see that my forearms are parallel and there's no choke there. There's no way I can choke him, but as he starts turning towards my back, watch what happens with my arms. They get crossed. And now once I pull him to the front, that's where the choking action comes into play. Okay?